Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of Dunedin Fine Arts Center Virtual Art Space. Today we are going to be speaking to the award-winning artists and the judge of the Florida Artists Group 2021 71st Annual Symposium and Exhibition. We're really excited to have this show here as a very venerable history, this group of artists. And we'd like to thank the artists and the judge and the entire membership of FLAG for sharing their work with us. Catherine, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Nathan. Good morning. Yes. Shall I tell a little bit about the history of FLAG to get us rolling?
You'll have to keep it short because I know it's long.
Indeed.
71 years worth.
Indeed. So I just echo your welcome to all the FLAG artists from around our state, to Dunedin and our favorite art center. As host venue of FLAG's annual exhibit, we congratulate each exhibiting member on their inclusion in this year's show. And it's a group of thoughtful, vibrant creators. Congratulations all. So the history of FLAG in our state was conceived in 1949. So the group has held symposiums and exhibitions in a different Florida city each year. Education and other cultural aims are advocated at their meetings through lectures, panel discussions, curated exhibitions, demonstrations, and other events, which many are open to the public. All members of FLAG are eligible to participate in their annual exhibition, which may be juried, and in this case, this year's show was. In addition to the symposium, there are annual and regional exhibits, events, and opportunities sponsored throughout the year. The nature of these follow the character of the annual symposium, offering an opportunity to participate in different venues and bringing the membership together. FLAG's goal is to contribute to the cultural atmosphere of the state of Florida, and each juror is an out-of-state artist, curator, educator, and or museum director.
Yeah, and today we're so pleased to have a very, very special guest with us, an artist who is a FLAG member, who has been a FLAG member for a long time, and whose family has also been FLAG members. Artist Leslie Jeffrey is with us today. Leslie, tell us some more about your family's history in FLAG.
My grandmother was Olivia Whitaker. She lived in Tampa and was a very fine oil painter. She did mostly realistic work, but got into more abstract work later in life. And she was, when I was applying for FLAG, I found a 1950 symposium, and her name was listed in the roster of artists. And wow. She really got me interested in art when I was 5 years old, taking me out plein air painting with her. And she was very instrumental in getting Tampa Art Institute started. So she was quite a personality, and that's where I got my love of art and painting. And behind me are some of her works.
That's amazing. Yeah, you have some of her work that you were going to show us here on.
I love that connection. I was so tickled when you shared your family link to the organization. Yes, look at that.
Now, did the artistic tendency or talent skip a generation over your mom or dad, or?
It did. My mother was always sad that she had no ability, and and my sisters are fairly talented, but they're more doing crafts as opposed to painting and fine art.
Okay, wow. Well, I know you're a very, very busy artist here in the Tampa Bay area, and I've been pleased to show with you a couple of times.
Right.
So, wow, thanks for sharing. I think it just goes to show how deep rooted this group is in Florida, and the vibrant nature of the arts community, not just in Tampa Bay, but all over Florida. And what a way to connect everyone once a year. It's like a big family reunion almost. I remember when people were coming in and dropping off and yesterday, or yeah, dropping off their works for the show, just a lot of talking and how are you and how have you been? And so
Great. We all look forward to the symposium every year and the wonderful venues we have the opportunity to exhibit in. It's the best part of the organization.
yeah.
And I'll say that our community had a wonderful introduction to many new artists through this exhibit. So we're very grateful that we had the opportunity to host this year.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you, Leslie.
congratulations on your beautiful piece, Leslie.
Thank you.
Beautiful abstract, yes.
Thanks for sharing, Leslie.
All right, thank you.
Normally, we would show a walkthrough video for everyone who can't make it to the space physically. But first, we're going to switch it up a little bit today and speak to our judge, curator Wendy Earle. Catherine, you have a little bit of background information on Wendy. She's got a pretty rich background.
Yes, and we welcome Wendy, who's joining us from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, where she's curator of contemporary art at the Southeastern Center for Contemporary Art there. And Wendy's background includes an extensive study of art history and ancient art of the Americas. That was her specialization. She received both her Bachelor of Arts and Master of Arts in art history. And she spent significant time studying pre-Columbian art in Lima, Peru during her master's program at the University of Texas in Austin. So we welcome Wendy to join us this morning.
Welcome, Wendy, and please share a little bit about your selection process for us. I'm sure we're all interested in hearing how a curator of your breadth would judge a show as big as this.
For the show, it was judged completely blindly. So that's part of the reason why they selected me, because I'm not in Florida. I'm not familiar with the Florida artist group, so I could be, really objective in all of this. And it was great to see everything, to see the diversity of the different media and the different styles. So obviously it was, required to do this digitally just because of the age that we're in. So that presented some unique challenges, but the last year or so, we've really been getting used to looking at that art online, and it's never going to be a substitute, but luckily the Florida Artist Group gave me several tools to really be able to do my job effectively. So I did my first pass through was just looking at still images, and then made some notes, figured out what was what sort of like grabbed my attention, and then I was able to look at the video walkthrough, which they had filmed, and then put sticky notes on all of the labels so that it was very still anonymous. And so some things really surprised me when I did the video walkthrough, and that was really fun to just get a sense of the different scales that were coming about. That was something that was really important to me, as I'm kind of doing the pan. I'm like, oh wait, what's that? Like that didn't grab my attention the first time when I was just looking at still images. And so that was a lot of my process. So I'm gonna kind of look through a few of my notes. I think everything that drew me, it really, it made me want to learn more about it. That was like my biggest criteria. I'm like, what, is it that I want to know more about the subject matter or the style or the story behind it? But whatever it was that I selected for my awards, I really wanted to, find out more about the artist and, explore some of those stories. I think one of the most important things that I look at is presentation, and a lot of people think of that specifically as framing. And that's not really necessary for me. In fact, several of the things that I looked at were unframed and mounted on the wall sort of directly. And that's a new trend, I think, that I'm seeing a lot more, but it's really engaging for the viewer to be able to have that much more direct connection with works of art without sort of this intermediary of the frame. It allows you to get a sense of the artist's hand in a lot more, fun and exciting ways. And yeah, it was a lot about the scale of the different works. So I can go through some of the individual pieces, but I know that a lot of the artists are here and they might want to say a few words about their pieces that were award-winning. So I guess I may open it up for a few questions if we want to do that.
Yeah,
and you can either unmute yourself or perhaps use the chat if that's the easiest way.
Yeah, thank you so much, Wendy. If you have the time to entertain questions, we'd love to hear from anyone. If anyone has questions, unmute yourself and shout out your question. Okay. Not hearing any questions.
No worries.
I'll ask a question. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Hi, Wendy.
Yeah.
I was just curious what you just mentioned about going through the process, seeing stills and then seeing video and getting a sense of scale and dimension. So then, were you then privy to the artist statements or, reveal who the artists were or anything like that?
No. After that, I just, they assign a number to each one. And then I just told them, okay, so number X for, the first place, number Y for this media award. So truly blind. So yeah, there were some, not necessarily surprises because I wasn't familiar with any of the names, but just, really all I had the title, I had the media, which is always really important to me. But yeah, I haven't seen the artist statements. Yeah. It's really just, it's about the visuals and just being able to form a relationship with the art by itself.
Great, thanks.
Do you have any preference for media or style, abstract versus realism?
No, I truly don't. I characterize myself as an omnivore curator. So it really just is like what strikes my interest at the moment, and being able to get a sense of the fact that there surely must be a story behind it, even if I don't know it. So I've, in my own institution, I do realistic shows. We just did a big drawing show. I do totally conceptual shows. I do video, photography. It creates a very interesting work day for me as I'm getting different shows together. I'm like, okay, so I just got off the phone with the North Carolina Zoo so that I can get an artist embedded with the wolves to get some video of these wolves for her show. And now I've got to talk to an artist in Santa Fe who's documenting uranium mines on the Navajo reservation and using drones to do that. And then I've got my furniture show that's coming up, and then so it's really fun. So that's how I operate with my life. I know certain judges definitely have strong preferences towards certain media, and there's certainly trends within the art world that go towards certain media. Being in North Carolina, I'm very interested in craft right now. I'm not from here originally, but we have a very strong craft tradition. So looking at that and trying to figure out ways to make that relevant to modern audiences are very important to me. So that's certainly something that I'm drawn to right now, but that may change in a year or so as well.
Can you tell us in Zika, Wendy, how long have you been there?
I've only been here 3 years. So previous to that, I was at an institution in Texas for about 5.5 years. And that was a Southwestern focused institution, but now I'm with Sika, which is a non-collecting institution. So our focus is truly just on our exhibitions. But Sika's been around in one way or another since the 50s. So we're about to celebrate our 65th anniversary. And our biggest claim to fame is Andres Serrano and Piss Christ. So we were the institution that gave him that award in the late 80s that kicked off the culture wars and Jesse Helms. So that's our history there.
I was wondering if you could tell us how you make a determination on first place. I mean, you look through a lot of these things and what goes through your mind and how do you place the crown on the head?
Yes. So, scale, I think, was a big thing for me, making sure that what the artist was trying to convey was sort of like, fit best. When I saw the first place winner, I actually hadn't made a ton of notes from the original slides that I saw. So the still images, it wasn't until I saw it on the wall that I'm like, oh, what, I don't even think I, passed. I certainly looked at everything, but it really struck me because it was such a great scale for the piece, the integration of different elements, how the artist had mounted it to the wall. So it was a collage piece. And collages are certainly something that's really interesting to me right now because when you make a collage, it's like you're extracting information instead of adding information. And so I think that that's really relevant to our world right now. There's almost too much information everywhere. And so the ability to sort of parse that down and reconfigure it is very important. And then I also really liked the art historical references that the artist was bringing in. So it had a very cubist, collage feeling to it. And even though I couldn't, again, read the artist statement behind it, I'm like, there's an interesting story here. I just know it.
Yeah. And there it is.
Yes.
Oh, great questions. Is there any other questions out there? All right.
I think everybody might know that Wendy's talking about Lynn Foskett's piece, which was the Genius Award. And I'll just say, as someone who is unfamiliar with the awarding system of FLAG, that by the signage that we've added to the pieces recognizing the award winners, there really isn't an indication of the hierarchy, but I figured the Genius Award was the...
Yes. Yeah, even in just the judging, they didn't give me a lot. They didn't give me criteria. They wanted, fresh perspective. So the only thing I had to think about was specific awards for media, which was pretty easy to figure out. But yeah, it was fun, and I was really appreciative that there were so many options for awards because there were really so many wonderful artists, and it was great to again see the variety of different work on display.
Thank you, Wendy.
Yeah.
Great. Well, it was a lovely experience. I wish I could have seen it in person, but such is life. But the FLAG group was really wonderful. And so thanks to all of them and the Dunedin Art Center for putting on such a great show. So I'm going to head out to my next meeting now, but it was lovely to see all your faces. We are not getting a lot of visitors right now, so it's nice to see so many artists.
Well, if you're down in Florida, come visit us, and likewise, I've always wanted to go to Sika. So
yeah, it's a beautiful space. So please do, everyone. All right.
Thank
All
you.
right, take care, everybody.
All right. So now we'll share the walkthrough video for anyone who wasn't able to come in person and see the exhibit. Catherine's taken to making some really great videos of all of our shows. And you can find a lot of those videos on our Facebook page, Dunedin Fine Arts Center Facebook page. And then let me get the video here. Thanks, Catherine.
Yeah.
Another great video. You wanted to share a little bit about history of flag. I know most of you are members, and so you know the history and mission behind flag, but there are some folks here, I presume, who are not with flag and who would like to know. And then also this is being recorded so we can share it with friends and fans in the future, so they'll know a little bit more about flag as well.
Well, the fascinating thing is that the group was formed in 1949 to me, and I don't think Leslie Jeffrey is here with us today, but I was taken by the fact that her grandmother was a member of flag. So that alone is a pretty profound and impressive detail. It says, do I really want to read this? I don't know, Nathan. It gives a little bit of history of the first 4 presidents. We have our past president, Lori Williamson, present. I think Margaret Hodge couldn't join us today, but the annual exhibition and symposium takes place in a different region once a year. And people can become a member by applying, right? And then there's a review process. One of the founders was the former president of Rollins College, Hugh McKean, and there's ties to the Archives of American Art and the Smithsonian. So it's a rich and varied history, let's say, and you are all part of it.
Yeah, 71 years is a long time to be together, especially in Florida. Florida is such a young state. So that the fact that the artists have always been networked down in Florida is very interesting. And we're glad to have everyone here in our art center this year. What a treasure.
So I will just read the one paragraph that all members are eligible to participate in the annual exhibition, which may or may not be juried. In this case, I believe it was. In addition to the symposium, there are annual and regional exhibitions, events, and opportunities sponsored throughout the year. And the nature of those events follow the character of the annual symposium, affording artists an opportunity to participate in different venues and bringing the membership together. So the goal of FLAG is to contribute to the cultural atmosphere of the state of Florida. And each juror is an out-of-state artist, curator, educator, and or museum director. And I think you all did very well to select Wendy Earle this year. Sika has such a great reputation.
If you would like to see some additional videos, there's 2 videos on the FLAG website. That's floridaartistgroup.org. The gallery view video and the awards video. These were made by FLAG member Jim Swallow. So these are some additional videos to watch. Let's get into hearing from our award-winning artists. There's 15 of them, and so we're gonna ask them to focus on their award-winning piece. However, as you can see here with our first speaker, Weldon Ryan, who was awarded the Golden Paints Merchandise Award, we've listed each artist's website if they have one here, so you can learn more about their work and see more images. Weldon, are you with us?
Yes, hi.
Excellent. There you are. Great. Well, this is a beautiful piece. Could you please share a little bit more about it?
Well, the title is Ammo Galore, and you know, it's quite evident why it's titled that. It came about because what I do is I paint about the Caribbean experience and about Carnival, And I take the family around wherever there's a festival, and we just, we take reference photos of it. The ammo came about because this particular person and the costume caught my eye, and she's a willing participant in the photo. So I work from photographs, as you pretty much can figure out. But yeah, the piece, it represents Caribbean women, Black women, and what I liked about her was her dark skin, and it was a challenge to paint so many hues into this one painting. So it's about strong women, strong Black women, and it's about also the Caribbean culture. Now the title "Ammo Galore," it was just hard to find a good title for this piece, but I always remember the James Bond movies and how they always do this double entendre thing. But the funny thing is that's synonymous also with the Caribbean culture, as far as with calypso music. And all of the calypsonians, they always have a double entendre, a double meaning to whatever they sing about. And with her, she's a brick house, and so she's well equipped in that manner. But also, she's also well stacked with ammunition. So that's the double entendre with that. I mean, honestly, I should have left that to y'all to decide, but that's the whole gist of it. It took me a while to paint this piece, and to me, I feel very elated that it came out the way it did, and I'm also elated that I won an award for it.
Yeah, and it is a beautiful piece, and you did a really good job with all these rich skin tones, and I think that when you look at the hair and the feathers, there's a lot of attention to detail. So yeah, it's a beautiful piece. Thanks for sharing, Weldon.
Sure.
Congratulations.
And congratulations, yeah. Cheryl Fossel, are you there with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Cheryl, thanks. Still in France, I see.
Then I wish. My daughter lives in France, that's why I go there quite often.
Oh, okay, all right. Tell us more about your piece here called Yes, They Do. There's a lot of splattering and very interesting kind of figurative composition here.
I call myself an abstract realist. I am predominantly a watercolorist, but for over 20 years, I worked in oils and mixed media. So this painting is kind of a deviation from my present work. But I brought together in this painting a lot of elements of things that I have done and am doing. I do paint from photo references as well. So the figure, the boxer, was from a photo reference that I took in Switzerland. And basically the painting evolved. I'm an intuitive painter as well. So I started out with that figure and then slowly made up the painting as I went along. So basically, I had no idea what this painting was going to look like until it was done. It was an adventure. So I created a visual story out of elements, but I did not have a story going in.
I was surprised to see that it's water media, Cheryl.
Well, yeah, and that was a challenge working on canvas. So there's some watercolor on this canvas. There is some acrylic, and there is also some ink.
Oh, okay.
Okay, all right. Yeah.
And how was the stippling created? Just curious.
With an atomizer.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's a multi technique actually. And like I said, the painting grew as it came along.
And the drawn elements, it's a really nice range of mark making, and then the sharp edge, the the sharp lines.
Well,
Mhm.
I am I am drawn to geometrics, and I think that that could be a result of the fact that for over 8 years I taught patchwork quilting when I lived in Germany, and I wondered at the time how that would influence my painting, and I found myself always attracted to pieces of work that have geometrics in them, but at the same time, because of my drawing background and my realism background, I like the combination of geometric and organic, and I like to play the juxtaposition of the two.
Yeah, it's really successful, and I love the sense of perspective in this one too.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good combination of flat space and implied space, so yeah, quite successful. Well, thanks a lot, Cheryl. Thanks for sharing about your work.
Congratulations.
Our next artist is one of our own. Melissa Miller-Neese is one of our most lauded instructors here at Dunedin, and quite honestly, one of the most amazing colored pencil artists I've ever met. Melissa, are you with us?
I'm here.
Great.
I'm here.
So tell us more about your piece here, Gossip Girls.
Well, yeah, I do a lot of people on the beach, as most people know about my work. When I went to Atlantic Beach that day and I saw this group of middle schoolers, I took a lot of photos. I was just really taken by their antics. They were just so typical for preteens. And it was very funny watching them. The boys were very shy, very awkward, trying to flirt with the girls. The girls seemed like they thought they were more sophisticated and more beautiful. And so I just did a lot of drawings already from this sequence of photos. This particular picture caught my attention because what's going on here? The two girls are giggling about something. Are they making fun of the boys? Are they making fun of the other girl who seems a little more awkward? It was just interesting to see that and put them in that environment. And, you know, I don't know what's going on with them, but it's something that we all have been in that position, and we remember that. And we remember maybe when we were nasty teenagers and maybe regret some of that. and doing things like those purple swim trunks, that was just fun to follow that plaid through and work my way around it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely a lot going on in this picture, and a lot for the imagination, like you said, to make up your own story. So
Melissa, when you're working on a colored pencil piece, and so much of your work is photorealistic, are you, as I recall, you work in sort of a color separation process where you're laying down all the reds and then the blues and is that right? No?
Oh, no, I've done some demonstrations like that where we work with a limited palette, but mostly I'll work on an element and work my way through it. So with this one, I basically did the figures, working probably mainly left to right because I don't want to rub through finished work with my hands. And I'm putting the water in as I go because I need to see the negative space to see how things fit together. So I probably started this one with the two girls on the left and then worked on the girl on the right because she's above the others, and then the boy on the left and the boy on the right, just plowing through it. This is on a textured pastel paper, which I really like to draw on. It allows you to build up the colored pencils more than you can on plain paper because it's gritty and it grinds the pencils up a little bit.
yeah.
Was it a colored paper? Just curious.
Yeah, it's like a grayish blue that's behind everything.
Those reflections in the water must have been a meditation.
That's one of the things that's really fun to do. Last year I did another drawing of this same group of kids, and they did the background in pastel. So the figures were in colored pencil, and doing the water in pastel went really more quickly than doing it in the colored pencil. But this one had to be 100% colored pencil. So yeah, that's all it is.
Wow, amazing. And just to give a sense of scale, this piece is, what would you say, about 18?
I think the image is about 20 by 26, something like that.
Yeah, so it's not small. So there's a lot of A lot of work there. Well, thanks a lot, Melissa, for sharing about your piece and your technique. Of course, we can always see more of her work here in our faculty gallery when we're showing faculty work in our upstairs faculty gallery. So our next artist is Menakshi Day, I think. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Menakshi D. Yeah, we've been having problems hearing Menakshi, so we're going to speak on her behalf today. No, sorry.
It's very musical. Well, the title of Menakshi's piece is Trinity, and the medium is acrylic on canvas, as everyone can see. And the statement Menakshi provided says, "Moments of unrest are like the tides. As they come, I look for solace in the Almighty. I time travel to my childhood days, to my grandma. Her stories from the Indian mythology, engrossing tales of the Hindu Trinity always bewildered me. Memories of those enigmatic tales of the triad of deities, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, personified as the creator, the preserver, and the destroyer, creating the universe and all its inhabitants, came back after years during these pandemic days. My desire to pay homage towards them gave shape to my painting. It calmed my soul, akin to the chants of Gayatri mantra." Beautiful, beautiful statement. Well, it surely carries a sacredness. It's so layered and intricate, this piece. We really kind of marveled over the surface of this piece. Menakshi, we were like, how did she do that? Wait a minute. We were trying to decipher.
Yeah, the layered mark making on this is really wonderful. And then when you look closely underneath all of this mark making, which is very, I don't want to say methodical, but very attentive, there's a lot of really abstract kind of layering of paint underneath, which is really exciting. It keeps the piece exciting. So yeah, really, really wonderful. Thanks for sharing, Menakshi.
Yes. Congratulations.
Our next artist is Francisco Arias. Francisco, are you with us?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Wonderful. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, please tell us some more about your work here. I'll let you pronounce the title.
Yeah, I was inspired by the more like the nostalgic feeling that I have right now living here in Florida. I've been here for 20 plus years. And when I get to think about my island in Puerto Rico, it always brings, I was trying to create something. I was trying to come up with something that I can feed that nostalgic feelings that I have for the island, the small island. So I know that the Puerto Ricans love arts, they love music. And I think a couple of years ago, I did several still lifes in that topic of Puerto Rico and my island, my people. And this one, this is the biggest one that I did. And I'm trying to keep it a little impressionistic, but it came out a little too realistic, and that wasn't my intention. I having trouble with my brush strokes, trying to keep it a little bit more loose, right? But anyway, it came out nice, and I think it worked really nice, and it was a hit. It was a big hit in the Latino community, and I'm really proud of it, really happy with it. And I'm surprised, really, given the talent that we have here in Florida and this organization, that I won, because really there's an incredible display of talent here in our organization. But now that I have this opportunity and I won, well, to me, it's kind of, there's a certain level of gratification. But it's funny because when I put this together, I had to bring several instruments from my church, and I put them in my garage, and I did about 20 pictures of it to see what worked. and what composition worked and the colors and everything. And some of the items were not there originally, but you have to look for a way to make everything stick together so it looks fused and looks really nice. And I think that I got something nice, you know, that works, that please the artist first, right? It has to please the artist first. And I'm glad, you know, that it won and have something as a legacy for my island too.
Francisco, do you play music as well?
Yes, I play classic guitar, electric guitar, the bass in my church. I play a little bit of drums. That because I'm a musician. I come from a large family of musicians. All my brothers are musicians, and now my kids now love music. One of them is playing in a band, and so it looks like the family is all surrounded always by music. And I wanted to honor the musician, especially the Puerto Rican musician. Puerto Rico has an incredible. Despite the fact that it's such a small island, there are a lot of music, a lot of talent has come from that little tiny island, and that's what I wanted to honor: the musician, the talented person who has the music inside of him and running through his veins, and that's what I wanted to convey here in this painting. I think I pretty much put it together in that little piece, little composition.
Yeah.
Very successful, yes. I want to ask you about that stringed instrument. It looks like a guitar, but it has almost a carved out like a violin.
Yeah, that's what they call in Puerto Rico. And I don't know if it's typical of Puerto Rico. I know that several smaller countries also have it. It's like the cuatro, Puerto Rican cuatro, right? So it's 12 strings. I didn't want to put all the strings there, the 12, because it's incredible. It's impossible. It will ruin the painting, right? It's better to put a couple of them only and give a sense of strings there. It's a small instrument, but it sounds really nice. It's beautiful. And if somebody, I don't play it very well, I try to rehearse and try to get into it, but it's really impossible. It's really difficult with the fingers and everything. But I admire the people who can play it really well. It's a nice, beautiful instrument.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Wow, thanks for sharing, Francisco.
Absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, congratulations.
Mm-hmm.
Our next artist is Catty Smith from New Smyrna Beach. Are you with us, Catty?
Unmute. Okay. Can you
There
hear
you
me?
are. Yes, perfect.
Fantastic. This is a hard act to follow.
Well, you've got a powerful piece here, so tell us some more about it.
Thank you so much. Well, I'm a clay artist, and almost all of my art pieces have a woman in them. I usually sculpt strong women or whatever, but I got into doing a series of 3 images, and this is one of the ones I came up with. And this piece is actually coiled from the bottom up. And so, the finished product is already hollowed, so you don't have to do that part. I make my own colors with mason stains. I mix them just like a painter would do to get the colors I want and put it in an underglazed base. And that's how I do the finish. But this piece ended up being a commentary on, it's called The Human Plight, being a commentary on the issue of overpopulation in the state of Florida, which is home to numerous species of wildlife. And the Florida panther, which lives in the southern part of Florida, is very much a victim of overpopulation, and it is an endangered species. And I'm very fascinated with it because when I moved to Florida, I didn't really know about Florida panthers. And I thought panthers were just black. And when I started researching the Florida panther, I was just amazed. It's a beautiful animal. But most Florida panthers die because of being hit by vehicles. So that is an indication that there are lots of roadways and whatever going through wetlands and whatever. So this is what leads to most of them dying. And right now in the state of Florida, there are only between 120 and 130 Florida panthers living in the wild. So this year we've already lost 3 when I last researched this. But on the back of this sculpture, which you cannot see, is a depiction of, oh, there it is. Oh, thank you. Of houses and the little bit of natural land left, and how it's packed in there, and how the roadways run right within the wetlands and whatever. And so I tried to bring that factor out. Plus, you know, a lot of their food sources are being destroyed too by the lack of wetlands. I living in New Smyrna Beach. I'm in an area that they have just covered up tons of wetlands with loads and loads of sand and built houses. So we're all experiencing this. It's all around us. Of course, Florida is a wonderful place to live, and people keep coming. So I don't know what the answer to this problem is. And I didn't start out doing this commentary, but my sculptures usually just evolve, and what happens, happens. And I look at this as the human being in between the issue of life and death for the panther, as the panther is on top, and the vulture-like figure on the foreground there indicates death. So the human has a lot to do with the surviving species.
Excellent. I know, I'll just interject that there is the Florida Wildlife Corridor Initiative that people may or may not be familiar with, where they're trying to buy tracts of land that weave throughout the state that ensure safe passage for wildlife. So this is a very powerful piece, and I feel like the human, it's almost the mask-like. There's such a feeling of grief for me when I look at the sunken eyes, and it's just a powerful rendering. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Catherine. I was very honored to win an award for this. So many wonderful pieces of art in this show.
Truly, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Catty.
Thank you.
Our next artist is Julie Orsini Shucker. Are you there with us, Julie?
Yes, I'm here. Hi.
Okay, thanks. Good. Yeah. So you've got this beautiful piece. Tell us more about what this woman is thinking about and feeling.
Okay, well, before I started this piece, I wanted to work with a figure within a darkened room, and I wanted limited light. I'm very much intrigued. At this point, I was very intrigued by the glow, like when a person holds a phone, that the magical glow that transpires upon their face. That's where this all started. And then I went through some photo shoots with my daughter, and I wanted to incorporate what we call the dia. So basically, this piece here is a young woman, who's sitting in a darkened room. And she's wearing her cultural attire, which is called a salwar kameez. And she's holding what you call a dia. The dia is usually representative. Normally when you're in the Hindu culture, and when someone passes over to the other side, you take a piece of cotton, and you basically make a wick, and you put it into this little pot called a dia, this little tray that she's holding, and you set it upon a flame. You do this exactly for a whole year. And hopefully the goal of it is that when the person crosses over, is that you help them find the passage, you could say that the path of moksha, moksha, is where they find their final resting place. The Hindu thought believes in reincarnation, but the final resting place is not where you reincarnate, but you find that eternal bliss with the supreme consciousness. So that is the ultimate goal, and that's what this piece is about.
Wow.
The ritual begins after the death of the, is that right? And
Yes.
happens for a year.
For one whole year, yes.
Oh, and
Now-
daily?
Daily, before sunset, yeah.
Wow.
And I'm sorry, what is the, for lack of a better word, soul, spirit? What is that soul doing
Moksha.
for?
It's making a transition between the physical world to the spiritual world. And either they have they will, if they have not finished what they were supposed to do here on earth, then they will come back again and reincarnate. But the whole passage is to go on to the supreme consciousness and totally fade into oblivion, you could say, or not into oblivion, I should say, but into another state of consciousness.
Huh, I think that's pretty fascinating. Gives us a little extra time to wrap things up.
Yes. Thank you.
Congratulations, Zena. Thank you so much for sharing. I learned a lot with that.
Thank you.
And I will say that it's hard to hold in our minds from the gallery tour, but this is a sizable piece. This piece is on display in our atrium. As with Weldon's piece, was also a very large scale, and they have quite presence in the galleries. And I will also say that when we had arranged to have the flag show, we knew that there were going to be 80 plus works, but there were a lot of large works in the show, which was, people have really enjoyed. Yes. So very powerful. And thank you for that. Thank you for the insight.
Thank you. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Our next artist is Eileen Shalom. Eileen, are you with us from Delray Beach?
Yes, here I am. Hi.
Okay, welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations on your Florida
Thank
Artist
you
Group
so much.
Luminaries Award.
Thank you.
Let's talk about your piece, Unraveling.
Right. Well, Unraveling is a really, truly mixed media. There's a lot of collage and string, paint. The framework is a foil that I incised. It's sort of a repetition of the Klimt woman that's in the upper left corner. That was taken from a Klimt book. And then I added my own line work into it. So this piece is called Unraveling. And it speaks to the differences between being a woman, a white woman in the world, and being black woman. The white woman stands exposed and confident in her freedoms. And in contrast, the black woman is covered up, receding, almost becoming invisible behind the crisp white fabric that surrounds her. The painted, drawn, and collage threads that run through the center, you have to kind of bring us out a little bit, represent entanglement. And to unravel someone or something means to disentangle or free them from complication or difficulty. So the unraveled strings that hang around the black woman, around her face, represent confinement and captivity. However, they're soft and loose, as if she could just push them aside and break free, and it portraying hope.
Wow, thank you for that. Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm just going to repeat what everybody else said, and it's true. I'm so honored to have been given this award. And there's amazing work in this show. And the way the gallery presents it, it's just a beautiful space. So thank you.
Thank you, Eileen. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot to take in with this piece, especially now that you've shared more about your intention and the meanings.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eileen. Our next artist is Jim Swallow. Jim couldn't join us today, so I'm going to share a little bit about Jim, as if you didn't all know Jim. Jim and his work. Jim has got this really interesting stereoscopic photography project where he's going to different artists' studios and taking pictures of them. And then, for example, this is Kevin Brady. And then you're to use these goggles or binoculars to look at the picture through them, and they sort of coalesce into a three-dimensional, a unified three-dimensional picture. So it's a pretty old process. I'm going to read a little bit about what Jim has to say about his own work from his website. Let me just navigate to that. He says his work is focused on composing contemporary portraits of fellow artists working in multiple disciplines. By making portraits in their studio, it gives us a glimpse into their creative space that they use to express their own vision. He's approaching each session as if he were not there and just watching art unfolding before his eyes. So trying to really document the artist process. It began with a focus on the talents and diversity of local artists in my area, but he hopes to expand this series. And this series will include more than just those working in 3 dimensions, because many artists who are painters have a deep understanding and depth to their work. And he wishes to show the diversity of our Tampa Bay area. And I think that's a great project. I think there's a lot of other projects and many different industries that are looking to connect all the arts and artists together and highlight how much talent is in our Tampa Bay area, as FLAG does for the entire state. So we'll thank Jim on another day for showing his work with us.
And for all Jim's work on the show and capturing everything on video and yes.
Yeah, truly. Yeah, make sure to
all the FLAG members, all the volunteers who've been so helpful. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, make sure to, if you haven't watched them already, make sure to watch Jim's videos on the FLAG website. Our next artist is Rhonda Bristol from Orlando. Rhonda, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Oh, welcome, Rhonda. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Tell us more about your piece here.
My painting is called A Dinkra Totem, and it's 36 by 48 inches. I like to work large. It's a mixed media piece, yet primarily it's acrylic paint. I love to paint. I use watercolor techniques and some scrubbing and glazing and free brush strokes and scribbles. I employed washes to give the background a feeling of spaciousness and energy and hopefully timelessness. I use soft, quiet combinations of colors and tones. because I wanted to apply texture and to help move the eye around. There's symbolism in this piece, as well as certainty and confidence, too. I love portraiture and I delight in starting a storyline using paint and placement. In this particular piece, I captured this young woman's countenance. Her gaze was steady and it was strong. She stands with symbols that she's familiar with, and with those symbols, they happen to add to her strength of purpose and resolve. She stands in her now, unafraid, and welcomes the future she will help create. I have Adinkra symbols in here to the left and to the right of the figure. These symbols are from Ghana. They are ancient, they're historical and physiological images that represent concepts that originally were printed on cloth that Ghanaian royals wore when they went to important ceremonies. Nowadays, you'll find them on the largest paper money in Ghana. You'll find it in sculptures, you'll find it in carpentry, you'll find it in rugs. And the two that I used here was Janame, which is the one that looks like a center, kind of shapes that are ovoid and long wings coming up at the side. Janame is the symbol for the expressive nature of the omnipotence of God. And the other one is sort of like behind the figure. From where I'm sitting, it's to the right. And it's called a como nataso, and it's the symbol of the joining of hearts. It means unity, it means agreement, it means togetherness. There's much more symbolism in here, but I wanted to create movement. I wanted to create certainty. It talks to the condition of ethnic groups in this country and in other countries around the world. And I like talking about history using art like the rest of us do. I love painting portraits, but I like to paint them out of context. I don't want somebody to sit stiffly in front of me while I paint them. I like to catch a moment or create a moment of our human experience using paint.
Was this a live painting with this woman, or was it from a photograph?
It was a combination of both. This young woman happens to be my oldest daughter, who is now in California, so a portrait had to be used, and when she visits, I continued working on it.
Good. I love the freedom with which you paint, Rhonda, your mark making, especially in here. This is really fascinating. The brushwork on this wing, it tells so much with so little. So,
but what I tend to do is to paint more than one painting of the same subject. When I start, I'm always tight. I learned in the classic style. I started having art lessons at the Museum of Modern Art School when I was in middle school. I went to a high school that majored in either music and art and all the academics. You know, I got a BFA, I got an MA. It's very hard when you've been trained to draw and trained to paint to be free. So sometimes I use my left hand or my non-dominant hand. I love talking with paint. I love talking with drawing. And I work in other media, so I try to stay fresh and I try to work on them, not all at one time, but several different mediums at one time.
I like the drawn, the feel of the hand, the drawn patterns, but and there's the laying down of the marks and then the taking away, like that one little pink line that's kind of scratched away there, I think. Love
Magic
that.
marker.
Love that.
Magic marker.
Oh, it's magic marker. Oh, okay.
we look at the texture in the sweater that the daughter has on, that's magic marker. I had to put mixed media because I couldn't try to cheat. I had to be honest. But when I can get to the point that I am not wrapped up in what I'm doing and it's not precious in quotes, then I can be freer. So for me, making many, I can end up with a good one because I always have another one I can go to. So I lay them on. I'm kind of like the Florida highwaymen, except I don't work on a fence. I put my work on a table and I go from one to the other while I'm using the same color paint or ink or whatever it happens to be. And then I go back to the first one. I always do 3, sometimes I do 5.
Ah.
Well, thanks a lot, Rhonda.
Okay.
Thanks for sharing.
My pleasure, and thank you, and I'm appreciative of the award.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Next, we'll speak with Nadine Myers-Saitlin. Nadine, are you with us?
I'm unmuted.
There you go.
Okay.
Wow, so here's another 3-dimensional work that has won an award. Tell us more about your, I was interested in the description of your media here, 3-dimensional acrylic painting on natural gourd.
Yeah. Well, first of all, my work is abstract, and I'll be happy to speak to that. But first, let me define the media and the material, because although you've seen this many times before, i.e. the natural gourd. Gourd is a member of the pumpkin family, and they grow and they grow and are used primarily throughout many cultures to be utilitarian in cups and dolls. And in fact, I think it was Francisco's piece, we saw a gourd made into a musical instrument. My notion here is to repurpose this form, which they're extraordinarily beautiful and they come in several different shapes, to be a canvas for my artwork. So I go through a process where I select the form, clean it out, take the seeds out, wash it down, and then because I am an abstract painter, I prepare it exactly like I would a canvas. I prime it with an acrylic spray paint, and then I sketch on it with pencil and begin the painting process, which is an acrylic paint, very, very matte, because I like the defined forms, and then begin to paint it into my design, into my drawing. Because it is a 3-dimensional form, I'm able to literally create a 3rd-dimensional painting. It's a continuous painting. Every place you look on it, you have another composition. One of the things that excites me about that is if you don't have a sculptural form, such as this, you can put it up on the shelf, but then you become part of my process on what side are you going to look at? How often are you going to watch one side? You become part of the creative process in terms of my image making and the kinds of compositions I've put into the form. They rarely grow quite this big. I've had to search far and wide to find them. I mainly have been using farms. I have a farm in an Amish farm in Pennsylvania. These happen to come from California. I've even found them on eBay. So if you shop around, you can find them and clean them up and use them as a canvas. I really believe I am repurposing this as a canvas. And because of that, there's been some challenges about when I place them into a show, whether or not they're accepted as craft or as fine art. So I feel like I'm knocking at that door all the time, whether or not how it's perceived. But as far as the imagery, you know I'm an abstract artist. My dear friends at Flag have seen my work over time. I use my imagination. I draw on things and objects I see, situations I've been in. So I'm storytelling, but not in a literal sense. I want you to make sense out of what it is that's there and build a story in your own mind. Somebody will say, oh my God, there's a figure there. Well, there is if you see it. You know, it's one of those things that you visually put these imaging together. This particular form, I was drawing on a lot of Florida landscape, the rocks, the water, the foliage. But as you move up the form, the structures get more abstract and allude to things that are up in the sky and the movements we see up in the sky. About, I want to say 2016, which many of you will relate to, the world for me got very tumultuous, got very crazy. Politics got crazy. People were after each other. Things got sad. We started going through a pandemic, and a lot of the work that I was seeing, people were trying to deal with the social aspects of what was going on. What I chose to do was I wanted to bring more joy. I wanted people to have things in their life that were joyful and were fun. And so as I've been doing more and more of the Gourd work, I've been trying to instill them with an enjoyment for what you can see without having to have the burden of a subtext, really. So I hope that is conveyed. I feel that's what I was trying to convey.
I think it's very successful, yes. And I will just mention that I'm glad you described your process in preparing the gourd, because the finish is so velvety and beautiful, and the piece is so light. The way you presented it on the stand, I've not seen anything like this, and very striking. And you definitely succeeded in bringing us a joyful passage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'm noticing that you are a painter with your canvases behind. And I see that with the gourd, the areas of color are very hard edge, whereas I see on your paintings that you work much more loosely.
Yeah, I think, well, my work has moved more into a controlled shape and pattern and away from a looser atmospheric feeling. I don't know if the painting influenced the gourds or the gourds influenced the painting, but I wanted to be very concrete about how people travel through my work, not necessarily how they interpret the form, but I want to move their vision through a composition. And that is particularly true in the gourd. I never want them to stop at one place. So I think as many artists, one thing you do influences the next thing you do. And so this happens to be the direction which I'm going in now, and falling in love with the paint and the edge.
Well, congratulations, Nadine.
Thank you.
It's a wonderful piece, and we're glad to have it and see it in person.
Thank you. And again, thank you for the honor. It's a wonderful group, and it's wonderful to be recognized.
You're welcome. Our next artist is Nancy Dillon from Melbourne.
Hi.
Nancy, are you out there?
I'm here. I'm here.
There you are.
Yeah.
Tell us
Thank
more
you.
about your fascinating graphite works here. Sort of a combination of insect and natural forms and.
Well, I've in the last 3 or 4 years, I've been focusing on drawing. Prior to that, my main medium was oil painting, but I've taught drawing for 35 years as well as painting, and I decided that it was time for me to focus on my drawings for a while. And what I have been doing is developing a series of drawings working from objects found in nature. and each drawing reveals a magical world, changing the once visible object into something that invites the viewer to take a closer look. I live on the Indian River, and along the shore, sometimes we'll find very unusual things wash up. And I'm always looking for what is lost or left behind by nature. And this happened to be I think it was something like a palm root, and it formed sort of a semicircular crescent shape. And so when I started working on it, the thing I loved about it was the roundness of it and the volume that was created by the ridges, and then the detail that you could find throughout the surface of the root itself. And the more I looked at it, the more I saw these hidden images in it. And what I try to do with this is turn it into an insect or an animal or a bug, something that's unexpected. And I want the viewer to find the new things that are revealed in it. I really want people to look for things and discover there may be some hidden objects in them. There are definitely landscapes that are created within the textures. And it's called Might Be, MITEBEE, because it might be a bee or it might not be a bee. You know, it's up to you to see what you want to see in it. And so I did do most of the drawing and realized I thought it needed something else, so I added the legs to it. And and I like the contrast in size and scale between the large legs, hind legs, and the real small front legs. And so
I love this piece, and everybody might know that it was featured on our invite to represent the flag show. And I am familiar more with Nancy's painting, so when this came through for the show, I was just really blown away. There's both a sharpness of detail, but there's also a softness. And did you use vine charcoal as well as, or is all ebony pencil, or?
I used Mars Lumograph Stadler pencils. They're basically, I say it's graphite, but in reality, I think it's carbon based. And it's the darkest Lumograph pencils I can find. And I usually work with a limited range of pencils, mainly an HB to start it off and get my placement. And then I come back in with an 8B. Sometimes I work with a 2 and a 4B, but those are really pretty much the numbers that I work with. And I'll take an image and photograph it on a white piece of paper, usually at high noon or sometime a little bit later, depending on whether I want to get a sharp shadow-like shape on it. And then I will take the object, the photograph, and I will turn it into a black and white rendition. And then I will either work with a Photoshop or Pixelmator or some other type of graphic program and enhance it. So this one was basically pretty literal. I took the object as I found it and then added the other legs to it. The eyes I enhanced, they were in there. They seemed to speak to me as if they were eyes. And you know, you can look at it closely and you can see a mouth in it and a nose and
yes,
all those typical features that bugs have.
And I'll just mention that when Wendy was speaking about more and more seeing works in the galleries that are unframed, presented with magnets, or Nathan and I deal with that quite a bit. And I also do appreciate that presentation. It makes your work a little bit more vulnerable and you have to have a lot of trust. But that is how this piece is shown, is with the magnets holding the paper onto the wall.
Yeah, I appreciate you being that open to allowing me to do that. I've had several locations where the work has been shown and it's been received very well that way. And I really want to thank you all for the award. I am very appreciative of it. And I think that the Florida Artist Group is a dynamic group, and I'm enjoying working and getting to know more members in the organization. And so thank you again for having me.
Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy. And if you all haven't had a chance to see Nancy's website, she has a lot more of these kinds of work here at dillonart.com. You can spend some time there, again, kind of cruising the details on kind of surreal landscape organisms that she's making. So thanks a lot, Nancy.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Next, we have another local artist to us anyway, Mark Mitchell from Treasure Island, St. Pete area. Mark, you have an interesting mixed media piece here. Are you with us?
Yes, I am. Hi.
Great. Excellent. There you are. So tell us more about your piece here, Rise.
Yes. Well, this piece is a little bit of a departure for me, in as much as two things. It's mixed media, and it's a little more personal than what I typically do. I think it's consistent stylistically with the rest of my work. I like to call myself a conceptual pop painter, which is typically acrylic on canvas, fairly large scale. And the whole sort of gestalt of what I'm trying to do is create art that conveys ideas using juxtaposition, sometimes a little social commentary. And I like to encourage the viewer to look deeper, if you will. There's always something else beneath the surface, some subtext. And so those are sort of my sandbox, the tools. I like to invite the viewer in and try to find some meaning and see the world a little differently. But like I said, this piece, Rise, was a little more personal in that it was really conveying some ideas and some philosophy I have about the world of spirituality. It was a way of visualizing it and to try to capture the transcendence of the soul beyond the confines of the physical. The palette and the use of there's dimensional marigolds, I don't know if you can see them behind me, mounted to this painting on wood. And those elements are an homage to Dia de los Muertos, the Mexican Day of the Dead, which honors the souls of the departed. And I believe in their tradition, in the Mexican tradition, that annual celebration, the sort of thought process is that we keep the departed alive through our memories, through our good feelings about them, through shared stories. And that's sort of what their celebration is. And I think my philosophy may take it a step further, because I feel that not only are we keeping their memories alive, if we focus and sort of have that meditative moment on people that we love that have passed on, we may actually maintain a connection with their spirit wherever it may be. So to get viewers engaged, I typically write a few lines to complement the piece. And so I wrote this: the eyes are the window to the soul, energy burning within, the fire and spark of our essence, the light that never goes out. Beyond the boundaries of the physical, exploring the depths of the universe, achieving higher consciousness and understanding. We live, we love, we rise. And so the image of the bird, typically you see it throughout classic art through the ages, religious art, often, meaning the Holy Spirit or something spiritual. The eyes, we always feel that connection through eyes. That's how we look at each other and get to know each other. And so I just saw that as sort of a portal into that universe inside and the connections to everything else out there.
I love this piece. I was really happy when to know that you were recognized, and it's a bold piece and unconventional use of the materials. So congratulations. And I am curious, Mark, if you have others in this series, because we're going to do a sort of a wearable art deviation coming up this fall, and we're going to work with the idea of the rebirthday suit. And,
oh, wow.
And I really, I was wondering if you had more.
That's funny. I made a small companion piece at the time when I created this one, which was one of those sugar skull on wood, sort of a life-size face, which echoes the same imagery. But beyond that, no, I wouldn't say it's part of a series, but I'm intrigued by what you're describing. I'd like to learn more about it.
Okay.
Yeah. I just also would like to acknowledge that I was very happily surprised to get this honor. I'm a new member this year. I didn't see it coming, and I was really very flattered and grateful. And I finally got to see the whole show in person just this week, and I'm blown away by the quality and the craftsmanship and all of the talent in this group, and I'm really happy to be on board and to be honored this way.
Yes, yes. Congratulations. Yeah. I wondered how many new members were in this exhibit, and for me, having been in Florida for many years, and I was also as a practicing artist for many years, I was introduced to a lot of new artists. So exciting. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing, Mark.
Yes.
My pleasure.
It's a small piece that packs a punch. I know your work is generally much larger than this, but yeah, this one's 2 foot square, and you got the universe in there. So
back to one, and yeah, I've been starting to experiment with some smaller formats just to mix things up a little bit. But yeah, I usually go like 3 feet square and up from there. Yeah. So yeah, it's nice to rein it in a little bit once in a while.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot, Mark.
Thanks, Nathan. Thank you, Catherine.
And I think this is our, nope, we've got 2 more artists. Pat Mahoney, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. Wow, look at your studio. You've got wall-to-wall art in there. Yeah, please share more about your piece here, Venus, if you will.
Well, first of all, let me say how blessed I am to have won an award in this show. It was a wonderful surprise. Such great work. This particular painting is, I need to give thanks to our local utility, Clay Electric. Our lights went out, and I'm sitting in the dark for quite a while. So I get an oil lamp, and it ends up being a 2-hour wait. So I'm just staring at this flame for a very long time, and just figuring out how I would paint it, what medium I would paint it. Plenty of time to compose. So I get a camera and take some photos. And this ended up being an oil on canvas. And I've always been in admiration of the old masters who painted by candlelight, Latour and some of the other amazing artists. So I've done a couple of those, but this particular painting, this marble statue on our coffee table and a bowl of seashells and coral just all seem to just make a good subject matter. So I tried to make it a little more contemporary. So I, in this environment we're in with the COVID, I like putting a subtle, something hidden in a painting. So I have a mask on the Venus. She's turning her back on a virus in the bowl of shells, just to put a contemporary twist on it. But basically it was just, I love doing still life. because I can control everything. And basically that's just, it was just my fun time with a still life. With a little.
Wow, yeah, I love that. I love that you included that, Pat. And it just, I think, really speaks to maybe some of the isolation and quote unquote darkness that maybe some of us been feeling this past year. And but you've lit the way, haven't you, with your oil lamp, which is, I love the, just in terms of painting, I love how you've painted the flame and the top of the oil lamp here. Very well done.
Yes, and I just want to say, as I'm sitting here in the gallery and can look across at Pat's painting, in this capture of it, it looks a lot lighter. Here in the gallery, it's just such the glow and the surrounding area around the figure, it's reading much darker in person. So it's really a high contrast between where the light is emanating, the smoke, and it's not really coming across in this slide, I think. But congratulations, it's a beautiful, beautiful piece. There again, it's a fairly good size too.
Yeah, well, what was ironic was the entire time the flame itself was perfectly still because there was no movement. It was a very quiet 2 hours with just staring at the flame. So what I made up in the image was the smoke and the flame to get a little action and some interest going on. And that was my inspiration, was the flame.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, great job.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Pat.
Thank you.
Let's see, I think our final artist is Lynn Foskett. Again, another local to us from Tarpon Springs. Lynn, are you with us?
I am now.
Excellent. Well, congratulations on your award. And I think I've been personally following your work for a couple of years and just totally interested in your chairs and your obsession with them. I think we've had some conversations about that, but this time around, you brought us this very interesting multi-dimensional wax and collage, and so you've really been experimenting. So we're lucky to hear more about it today.
Thank you very much, Nathan and Catherine. And I'd like to say, as with everyone else, it's really an honor to be part of such a talented group and such a fun and engaging exhibition that Catherine and Nathan have put together. It really has been remarkable. I'm a mixed media artist, and part of what I enjoy about that is the story, in a way, that objects and shapes and remnants can bring into an image. And in this case, as Nathan alluded to, my fascination with chairs, I tend to think of chairs as kind of a metaphor for memory, perception, relationships, that type of thing. And so around the time that I was creating a series of chairs, of which this was one, I had received a bulk of letters from a cousin of mine that dated back from family members. The earliest one that I had was 1917 from my grandfather. And as I was reading those letters, I came across one from my grandmother, which is the impetus for this piece. And in it, this is around 1940 or so. It's in the summertime, and in the US, the summer would bring an epidemic of polio, which primarily affected children. And a lot of my family's from Florida. So this refers to a lot of the familiar areas of Florida in the letter, but she's also referencing periodically the concerns that she has of keeping her two younger daughters safe. My mother was older and out of the house at this point, but the younger two were not. And so she talks about whether they should be keeping them out of school come fall, keeping them out of public places, not participating in large groups, and that type of thing. And of course, the language was exactly what we have been using ourselves this last year with the pandemic. So it just seemed to me particularly interesting that, you know, we understand well, more or less, we are of our own time. And we tend to think that the experiences that we have are unique to ourselves, but they aren't necessarily, certainly in detail, but not in general. And so this whole fear of disease and trying to protect our children and that type of thing is an age-old emotion that every generation has experienced, I imagine, in one form or another. So the piece kind of came together based around that. And I used part of what I was trying to decide compositionally was how I wanted to tie these letters and that type of thing together. And I happened to have fairly large sheets of what is called sheet wax, which is a very stiff but malleable wax. And it also has a translucency to it. And it just came together as a nice compositional element that helped pull things together. And with the translucency, I took advantage of creating, as you see in this particular image, a shape that is of the coronavirus. The black shapes on the surface of the wax and throughout the piece are actually the outline shape of the polio virus. And I incorporated bits and pieces of the letter. I wove it into the seat of the chair and throughout the piece.
So it's so beautifully done. It's so beautifully crafted and the elements integrated. And you can see there with the shadows, sort of the multi-level relief aspect, and it kind of floats on the wall. I was immediately captivated by this piece when you brought it in, and I really congratulate and honor you.
Well, thank you very much. It was an honor.
Yeah, the graphic aspect and the just the surface treatment. I love that little square of blue, really the only bright color peeking through. It's just such a powerful composition. And there again, it's large. And so the wax, I want to ask you, Lynn, so is this stable then? I used to work with beeswax when I would do the outdoor shows, and sometimes they'd start to melt when I'd have them out in the heat.
This is a particular wax that is used in manufacturing and creating molds for metal shapes, like screws and bolts and suspect larger pieces. So it actually, it has a very high melting point, unlike beeswax. I mean, I suppose if it was left in the sun for a long time, it would begin to droop, but it folds easily, it'll flatten fairly easily. It's very difficult to create impressions with, but it is fun to try. I've been playing around with that a little bit, because if you can take a hammer practically and mold it over a shape, and it'll embed, not a lot of detail, but it will embed. And when you hold it up to the light, then you get this wonderful ghost image of sorts, of a bas relief of some sort.
I found people reading the letters too in the gallery. Yeah. They were drawn into the text.
Oh,
Yeah,
good. Glad to hear that.
So, I mean, just visually, it's so commanding, but then to have the whole other story behind the content itself is so compelling.
And I think the realization that we've, you know, as a species, we've been here before, kind of in a way gives us some hope that we'll get out of this, okay, for the most part. So there's some hope in this piece, which I really enjoy.
So thank you. As a matter of fact, another artist friend of mine who's out of state happened to be seeing some photographs of images of this in progression. And I had not actually intended it to be, but the little line strips of wax that I was using to really try to bring the piece together, she looked at it and she said, it reminds me of the freedom of a bird, that with children, particularly being affected by polio, they no longer walked. And with once the vaccine was found, of course, it created a freedom in a sense. That and so she saw that as a very symbolic element, which I really appreciated hearing, and which makes it also more engaging to realize that what I think I see in it is very limited to my own perspective, and it's wonderful to hear what others bring into it.
And I think also about from the point of view as the creator, so those were probably some of the last elements that you added, and there's like, it's looking so good, and it's all those decisions that the artist makes that can, when we finally decide to stop.
Yes.
And those are key, I feel, to the power of the piece, and those were, yeah, such another layer that makes it sing.
Well, congratulations again, Lynn. Thanks so much for sharing the story of your piece.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity, and for everyone. It's been a joy to listen to the background, in a sense.
Yes, I want to thank everyone in attendance. And before Nathan does the wrap up, I thought that I saw Pam Miles in the group, and I want to thank Pam because she was so key in coordinating everything with the Art Center and liaison with flag leadership with Lori and the committee. So Pam, I don't know if you're there, but thank you again. I just want to acknowledge all your giving. And also Lynn was here for receiving the works, and I know people are going to be helping next week. And thanks to everybody for the part you played and assisting making this exhibit happen.
Yeah, I'm also very grateful for all the help that we received in receiving, and it's just been a really fun exhibition to have, to see what's happening around the state. So thank you everyone for sharing your work. We do have some other exhibits still open, and so our regular hours are Monday through Friday, 10 to 5. We have a new class session coming up, so you can take a look at all of our classes on dfac.org. And we are a safe art experience, masks on, temperatures taken, social distancing encouraged. We also have our annual Trashy Treasures event coming up. It's online this year, so you have to go to the website to see how you can register for that and pick up some slightly used art and art materials, a little bit of everything for everybody.
Pre-loved.
Pre-loved, sorry. Which, if you'd like to see more videos, anything from our Coffee and Conversation series, which is hosted by the Sterling Society, we have those. We have interviews with all of our faculty members. We have videos about our youth ed from our youth ed department. So there's a lot of content there. We'd love for you to spend some time checking those out. And if you are in a group of between 5 to 8 people, Catherine and I would love to host an Enriched curator tour for your group. This is a special kind of tour where we invite the artists, the exhibiting artists, to speak about their work. If they're local, we'll invite them in person, and if they're not, we invite them via Zoom. So you're still able to engage with them live and in person in front of their work in the galleries. So again, the small group ensures the safety for everyone involved. And give me an email at nathan@dfac.org to learn more about this program. Does anybody have any questions for Catherine and I? If not, we'll bid you a good weekend and see you all next week.
I just want to say that I just wanted to share with everyone how much folks have enjoyed this exhibit, and we've had great feedback, and people are so impressed and captivated. So cheers to everyone. Yes.
Unmute.
Unmute, yes, unmute.
Thank you all.
Come on.
Hats off, everyone.
I do want to thank DFAC for hosting this show. It really did look good in the galleries, and this is a wonderful way to do a presentation. It's too bad I can't go back and look at everything more closely now, which I'd really like to after seeing those things close up online. And we've only got a few more days until the show comes down. So it's been great seeing all the work and hearing about the individual pieces. I appreciated that quite a lot today.